All right. Hey, good morning to you. It's Tuesday, and things are going to be good today, right? We're going to trust they are. We're going to get after it. We're going to do the things that that the Lord called us to do. It's going to be a good day, right? It's always a good day when you are a Christ follower. Doesn't mean they aren't hard. We talk about that at work a lot. There are hard days, but there's good days. There's good in the hard days, right? And so it's important that you and I have a good, healthy perspective as we walk through life, that we see it like that and we understand what that looks like. And so that's just kind of encouragement for the day, that you and I would be those kind of people, right? And so let's just enjoy, and let's jump into some truth today as well, right? So we are in the Gospel of Luke. We're in chapter 8, and we're telling probably one of the most familiar stories that there is, that he has. And so this is where we are. We're in the middle of this. He's just finished in Luke. He's just finished the two parables, and that's where we find him, right? We've just looked at the parable of the soul, and then we looked at the other parable of what was that other parable? Parable of the lamb. That's right. And so now, here we are. He's finished. Now, he had gotten into a boat in order to do that. So he's in a boat. He's been teaching those parables. Now, if we add Matthew and Mark to this equation and begin to look at the story as it unfolds in each of those, Jesus has told a string of 10 parables in that time on that hillside as he got in the boat and began to teach. And he teaches the parable of the soul, and he teaches the parable of the lamb. He teaches the parable of the seed that flourishes greatly. He tells the parable of the wheat and the tares. He tells the parable of the mustard seed. He tells one of the leavened bread. He tells one of the hidden treasure, the pearl of great price, the dragnet that is there, as well as one of the household servants and all that takes place. So he tells 10 parables. That's a lot of teaching. He's taught all day, really, is what is going on here. Matthew says he departed then with the crowds pressing in. So he's finished teaching. He steps back onto the shore. The crowds are pressing in, and he leaves. It's evening now, Mark says. Okay, so get the picture. He's in a boat on the shore. He's teaching. He finishes a long series of lessons throughout most of the afternoon. Gets out of the boat, maybe goes to eat dinner, whatever he's doing. Maybe that's when he's explaining the parable of the soils to his disciples. Evening comes. He tells them to get in the boat and let's head toward the Gerasenes, right? So what's going to happen is he's going to get in the boat. He's on the northwestern side of this thing, and he's going to go across, and he's going to go to the Gerasene mountain or area, and then we're going to see the demoniac from the Gerasene, right? So this is where we're going. So Mark says there were other boats as well. So you got this picture. These are fishing boats. They're not little rowboats. They're fishing boats. They're fairly decent size. They could be anywhere from 20 to 30 feet in length. So they've got sails. They've got nets. They probably have the outriggers and all of those things. And so this is what this boat is. He's preached all day, gone to have some sort of meal, come back. It's evening. They're getting in the boat. Things look good, man. It's calm. They're going to just head across at night. Nothing like sailing at night. They're just going to kind of cruise through the Sea of Galilee, get to the other side, enjoy a little bit of rest, and then a divine appointment that Jesus has with the demoniac on the Gerasene Mountains. Jesus is weary from teaching. It's part of the human nature, right? I mean, he's a little exhausted, and so teaching will take it out of you. And so he is God, very God, encased in this flesh, and so he's weary. So he lays down, he sleeps. I think Mark says he's got a pillow. Must have had some sort of a cushion. Maybe they used in the boat, for rough seas or whatever. And so maybe it was a life preserver. Who knows? But whatever it is, he's just resting in the stern of the boat. That's in the back of that boat. He's just kind of resting, right? So he's asleep. Yet still he's God. And so now let's pick up this story. It says, now one of those days, Jesus and disciples got into a boat, and he said to them, let's cross over to the other side of the lake. So they launched out. But as they were sailing along, he fell asleep. Now, so that's the setting. Calm night. He's asleep. They're just cruising through the waters. And then as he's sleeping, a fierce gale. Now, fierce gale is an interesting term because the word fierce here is a whirlwind. So from the northern region of these mountains, and it would happen periodically, just the way the winds would come and they would move down over that, they would sweep down into that. They would catch the necessary issues to create this storm, and so it would create a swirl, a cyclone, a tornado, a hurricane. That's what this is. So it's this fierce gale that comes up. So we're not talking about this just a strong straight line wind kind of a thing. This is a fierce wind, and so it's descended down from the northern slope, hits the water, picks up force, and it's churning everything. Right. So this is how it's recorded here. So in the middle of this calmness, man, everything is churned up. They truly believe that they're perishing. It says, but as they were sailing along, he fell asleep, and a fierce gale of wind descended on the lake, and they began to be swamped and to be in danger. So, I mean, the water's just rushing in. We're talking about, you've seen those movies, right, where those ships are on those waves, and it looks like they're going to go backwards, and then you see it disappear in the over swamp of the water, and it's on the deck, and people are being sloshed to and fro. This is the picture of what's going on. This isn't just like a lot of wind and like, oh, it's kind of scary. This is they are in danger of losing their life. The water is coming into the boat. The boats are at these points of capsizing, leeward and all of that. And so all of this is going on. It's taking on water. I mean, they're getting sloshed about, grabbing hold of something, grabbing ropes and grabbing rails and whatever they can to stay in the boat. You need to see this picture. This is not just a little easy wind thing going on, right? Now, they truly believe that they're perishing. This is because they holler at him. They came up to Jesus and woke him saying, Master, Master, we are perishing, right? And so this is what's taking place. They believe that they're dying. Listen, these are fishermen. These are professionals. They're in the waters all the time. They've seen all kind of weather. They've seen bad storms before. I'm not saying this is the worst storm they've ever seen, but this storm is they believe that they are going under, that there's no help. There's nothing to do this time. It's dark. It's night. These boats. There's a little flotilla, we assume, because it says other boats as well. I mean, they're all about to just go under. And so this is where we find them. Now, just think a little bit, just about our own life as we kind of slow roll the story just a little. There's times in our life when things rock along, right? I mean, things are good, it's calm, peaceful, until it's not, right? I mean, that's what happens. And God is with us, right? He never leaves us nor forsakes us. The reality that some people think that as long as Jesus and I are good, life is easy and life is good is a myth. Jesus never promised to take away our pain. Jesus never promised us that life would be easy. In fact, he says, listen, if you follow me, I don't, listen, the birds have nests, the foxes, have holes. I've got nowhere to lay my head, he says. If you follow me, he says, you need to prepare to die, right? Anyone who wants to come after me must take up his cross, deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me, right? So there's this reality of like, hey, if I'm following him, it's probably not, it could end bad. And you look at those things, and he says, listen, if you follow me, there's going to be persecution. Now, I'm not saying that this storm has anything to do with that. I want us to understand and demyth this idea that those who love Jesus are impervious to difficulties. They come. It was confusing even to the people in Jesus' day, because when they saw the man that was born blind, their immediate response was, somebody must be responsible for this. Who sinned? This man or his parents that he ended up this way? And Jesus like, man, he said God would be glorified. Everything is about that. May God be glorified, right? That's what God was glorified in the crucifixion of Jesus. God is glorified when his servants follow him and even are persecuted for his name's sake. God is glorified in those things. And so it's important to understand that Jesus is always with us in the calm and in the storm, right? He's always in our storms. He's not away from our storms. We heard some bad news from this past weekend. One of our loved ones has it's like stage 4 cancer, and so Tammy and I spent the other night with them and loved on them and listened to them and encouraged them, and the calm and the peaceness that they had in the midst of this. Hearing that kind of news is nothing that you really are prepared for. And so life's rocking along. Things are good in their life until they're not, right? And that's kind of what happens. Tammy and I in relationships have come to the place where we go, you know what? People love us until they don't. I mean, that's kind of how it is in ministry and in life in general. And so it's the same thing in issues of life. Life is good till it's not, right? I mean, difficulties come. And this is the point. And it's important that in the midst of this thing, when it just feels like your whole world is being turned upside down, right? That you're about to go under, that you're drowning, that you're being swamped, and we say, where is God? Where is he? Well, he's in the same way he was in this boat. He's calm in the midst of all that stuff. This is the good news. This is why we run to him, because there's calmness there, right? We run to strong people when difficulty comes because there's a presence there of power. There's a presence there of knowledge and wisdom, right? And so when we have difficulty, we run to those people. Jesus is our calm. Even in the storm, he's our calm. He's asleep. Listen, this storm is such that they wake him up. You think they talked about that? Man, I don't know. Should we wake him up? It's probably gonna blow over. Let him sleep, man. He's been preaching all day. But there came a point, and Jesus has to have felt this as these waves are being tossed to and fro, and that at some point they realize this isn't going to end well for us, and so they cry out. They cry out for Jesus. And I just think it's that you and I need to know that storms are going to come. Jesus is always in our storms. He's in there. Well, then why didn't he stop them? Well, he does this one. Why didn't he others? Well, I think what's the old statement? Sometimes Jesus comes and he calms the storm, and sometimes he calms our hearts and lets the storm rage on, right? He let the storm rage with Job. He sometimes does those things, right? And this is how he does. He lets the storm rage over Job's life, not just Jonah, but Job, but yet he gives Job a calmness of heart. Right? This is how it goes. This was Elijah standing and his servant coming out saying, "Man, you got to look at what's going on. There's this terrible, all these people. They outnumber us." And he's like, "Hey, calm down. Hey, Lord, would you open his eyes so he could just see that there are more of them than there are of us," right? You and me are never alone in whatever storm we are. Even if physically we are alone, we're never alone because the God who loves you and saves you is the God over the storm, in the storm, beyond the storm, is the God who is with you in those issues. It's so important that we see that and we know that, right? He's in the storm. He allows the storm. It's not the boats that are being tested here. It's the men and women who are in the boat that's being tested here. All of life's storms are simply tests. And I don't mean like guys going, okay, it's not temptations. It's a test. It refines us. It lets us know where to put our trust and where we put our hope, right? Consider it all joy, my brother, when you encounter various storms, right? Various trials, various issues, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. Let that endurance have its result, lacking that you may be complete and lacking in nothing, right? There's something about storms and surviving those things that grow us, not as mere humans. Not like because I got tough because I found my inner boots or my inner strength, or I grabbed myself up by my boots. It is that we find that in the presence of that storm, there's a calmness, and it's in the form of God, calmly within sight of us, putting us at rest. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, through prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. Did they not cry out to him? And did he not calm the storm? Do we not cry out to him? Does he not calm the storm that's raging in our heart and give us peace and give us rest? Absolutely, he does that. Now, Matthew calls this a seismos megas. That means it's a quake. Seismos, right? Seismology, it's a quake. This is a water quake, not an earthquake. This is a water quake. It's big, right? It's a water quake. We should just hear these things as we see this. This isn't some small little test, and ooh, there's a little bit of water came in the boat, or it looks like maybe we might be in for a bad day. This is if the earth quakes and you feel it, this is the water quaking, and that wind is swirling. So there's a lot of activity going on. It's just not the storm, but it's the effect of the water. It's a quake. And so these waves are swelling and they're crashing, and there's no end to them. It's no limit to them. And this is what's going on. And so it's swamped and they're filled up, and Jesus is at peace. And Matthew says that all were terrified. That is, that they were faithless, that every ounce of faith had drained from them. They felt like this day is their death. This is what's going on. Now, let's continue with the story. It says, so they came to Jesus and woke him, saying, Master, we're perishing. And he got up and rebuked the wind and the surging waves, and they stopped, and it became calm. Man, listen, the Jesus who knows all, sees all, has power over all, wakes up from his sleep. Now listen, you don't think he was aware of everything going on? I mean, he is omniscient. He is omnipotent, right? He has all power. He has all knowledge. He knows even if he knew beforehand this storm was coming. Maybe his mind is at rest now, but he knew that this storm was going to be here at that exact moment. This is how he operates. And so as he wakes up, he simply looks at the water, he looks at the wind, and he says, peace, be still, right? He speaks the word, peace, and it comes. So when Paul talks about this peace that surpasses all understanding, it's because it's a peace that doesn't come over us after we've rationalized something, after we've figured it out, after we've gotten a plan. It happens because the Spirit within inside of you, as you cry out to him, looks at the storm raging in you and simply says this, peace. And it comes, and you can't explain it. You feel it, you know it. It's like the storm's raging, but it's like all of a sudden that's kind of a hazy dream, and the only thing that's real is what's happening to you right now, and you are at peace. This is what he did. Now, when he spoke that word, the wind stopped like that. The waves calm, right? So in Job, where it says God says this is as far as the waves are going to come, and tells them when they will stop. Right? This is that picture of what was said of Job. And so it stopped. It's gone. It's calm a sea as you could ever have. The winds and the waves obey him, and it's calm, and the wind is gone. And you look up, and it's like none of that stuff happened. It's just this calmness. You see the stars, you see the moon, right? You look at that sea, and you can see that light of the moon just glisten as far as the eye can see off to the horizon, right? This is what's going on. It's that sea of glass that's taking place. This is what's going on. And when that happens, I don't know what happened to the water in the boat. I don't know if it just drained itself out, or that one toss before it stopped. However God did it, that boat didn't sink. It says this, and he said to them, where's your faith? But they were fearful and amazed, saying to one another, who then is? Listen, they saw him raise the dead, the son from the widow in Nain. They saw him cure the leper. They seen all of these great miracles, and yet this storm, the fact that he can control what was in their element, a terrifying thing. It's like I can't even fathom what just happened. It's gone. And they look at Jesus, having just heard the words flow from his lips, peace, be still. And they're like, they don't say it, but that's what they're thinking. Woe is me, for I'm a man undone. I'm a man of unclean lips, right? There's just this terror that they are in the presence of a holy God. Not fearful in an afraid sense, fearful in a reverent sense. Who then is this, that he commands even the winds and the water to obey him? Man, they knew they were in the presence of God. Listen, storms are going to come. When they do, let's just fear God, not the storm. The storm's an inconsequential thing. It may take us down, it may not. But this is what we know. God is with us in it, and he will carry us through it. And so, man, let's just be encouraged by that today. There's nothing coming your way that should cause you to be fearful and in unrest and in havoc. Be at peace in him today. Man, Lord bless you guys. Can't wait to share more of this stuff with you in the morning.